6.000 años antes de Cristo, de forma accidental, nacía una bebida que cambiaría el rumbo de la historia. Allí TV, el programa cervecero. Bienvenidos a Allí TV, el programa para los amantes de la cerveza y para aquellos que a partir de hoy la van a amar. En Estados Unidos visitamos Firestone Walker. Vamos a compartir la primera parte. Firestone Walker Brewing Company. Si nosotros queríamos la cervecería en la zona californiana, sin lugar a dudas, era esta. Y estamos con Matt Brandonson, que es el brewmaster, es el alma de cada cerveza. Hi, Matt.
Hello, how are you?
So exciting and happy. We start with the little history, because this brewing has very big heart, a lot of passion.
Well, Firestone Walker started in 1996. It actually started about 90 miles south of where we are today, in the vineyard property of the Firestone family, the Firestone Vineyard. So the brewery was born out of the wine world. Adam Firestone is a third generation wine grower, winemaker, and he and his brother-in-law, David Walker, conceived of the notion of starting a brewery, and they initially thought about doing barrel-fermented beers. And it was a very novel concept in 1996. And the first beer was really an English bitter that was fermented in medium toast American oak barrels. And they grew that business over the course of 10 years, making beer just for the local community. And this was in Santa Barbara County, wine country. And then in 2001, they moved the brewery here to this location in Paso Robles. Now, Paso Robles is another winemaking community. Paso Robles is a really welcoming community. They welcomed the brewery in. We had plenty of land and space to grow. So we celebrated our 25th anniversary just last year. So we're in our 26th year. We make all sorts of beers. We make English pale ales, like I said. We later made IPAs, like our Union Jack IPA. In more recent times, we've gotten into making hazy IPA. Firestone didn't build the original brewery here. It was built, oddly enough, by another winemaker, local winemaker in the Paso Robles region, and it was Slow Brewing Company. And Slow Brewing Company had already established itself. It started in 1988. And they built here a production brewery, and I came from Goose Island in Chicago to be the brewmaster in 2000. So
it's magic.
Yeah. Well, it was somewhat magic in that I probably should have done my homework, because I started working for this company, and one short year later, Firestone Walker ended up purchasing this brewery. That year, Firestone Walker made about 9,000 barrels of beer. The brewery was equipped to make something like 30,000 barrels of beer. So it was a perfect brewery for them to grow into. Yeah.
step.
Yeah.
That's it's the best.
Yeah.
Since the first time, you think in the impossible beer. I know you work a lot to maybe find the perfect recipe. You are a passionate. Beer before glory.
Yeah, it says it right there on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a trait of most good brewers, is that somewhat endless pursuit of perfection that will never happen. I'm glad. I feel like I still have it. I've been at it a long time, and I still haven't made the perfect beer. I feel like I'm also a very curious brewer, and I think that's another trait of a great brewer, is to be curious. I also have an amazing team. Some of the brewers that I've been working with for 20 years. We're all of like mind, and we really all are very passionate about making better beer. And along the way, we got into barrel aging, we got into sour beer production or barrel re-fermentations, mixed culture fermentations. We've dabbled in a little bit of everything because we're curious. Funny enough, our best-selling beer is a very simple blonde ale called 805 that kind of took this local community by storm. But our passion is in hoppy beers and barrel-aged beers.
Different beer.
Which we'll see a little bit later as the barrel aging cellar, yeah.
Estamos con Eric Ponce. Él es el director de todo lo que respecta a las barricas aquí. Ese es el Barrel Age Management. Y nos va a contar acerca de todas estas bellezas y cómo las cuida y qué tipo de barricas. En fin, lo va a decir todo él. Hi, Eric.
Hello, how are you?
Here with the smell, my God.
Magnificent, beautiful. I'm so happy you guys are here today.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, start where the point of you want.
Yeah, so we're inside the barrel aging facility here in El Paso de Robles, California, Paso Robles at Firestone Walker Brewing Company. I oversee the maturation of what we call our vintage program, and that's the room we're in today. And these are all ex-spirit barrels that I've been aging beer in ex-spirit barrels for over 10 years. I work with some of the best distilleries and barrel brokers from around the world, so we're able to bring in some of the best spirit barrels that we can get our hands on. We bring in cognac barrels from France, Armagnac, tequilas, mezcals, different type of agave spirits, lots of rums, Jamaican rums, rum agricoles, lots of bourbon. Lots of different types of bourbon, high rise, high wheats, straight bourbon. I love Scotch. So pretty much everything you can imagine, we do bring in, and then we design a beer to mature in these barrels. And as these barrels arrive from these distilleries, we don't do anything to the interior of these barrels. We hope that the distillery dumps them and we get them as soon as we can. So when they arrive here to us, we open up that bung and they're still glistening and wet with that uncut spirit. And then within a week, we hope to have a beer that goes directly into that barrel. We bung it up and we let it sit in this room. We maintain this room at 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, and the liquid spends at least 1 year in the barrel. Yeah, 1 to 2 years. And then once we empty that barrel, we get rid of the barrel. We only use the barrel one time as well because we're extracting all that flavor of that spirit into that beer on that first use. So then we discard those and then we bring in brand new spirit barrels.
All these are one use only?
Yeah, one use, because we're extracting all of that flavor.
So expensive that.
It is. It's expensive, but it's definitely a labor of love. So it's always designing the base beer to showcase the spirit. So they meld really well. They get a marriage of beautiful flavors, just interacting with one another as that liquid spending time in that barrel. And then we design at the finish when we start tasting about 10 months in, and we start tasting the flavor profiles.
How many barrels do you have here?
Currently in this warehouse, around 1,600 filled bourbon barrels. Yeah. And it ranges from 1,500 to 2,000, just depending on my filling and racking schedule.
Firestone Walker. En el próximo bloque, la segunda parte. Molinos BZ, el punto justo de la molienda para la elaboración de cerveza.
Lo mejor del craft nacional lo encontrás en Salute. Sucursales en La Luz y Lomas. Envío sin cargo a todo Zona Sur y Capital Federal. Más de 200 etiquetas para todos los gustos.
Hofsteiner, fundada en 1845, líder mundial en la industria del lúpulo. Calidad, sostenibilidad e innovación de nuevas variedades y productos de lúpulo. Hofsteiner, líder mundial en la industria del lúpulo. Birra más arte, Desarmadero Bar, en la esquina de Gorriti y La Valleja. Fermentis, easy to use, fácil de usar. Inoculá directamente o rehidratá con mayor flexibilidad. Fácil, limpio y sustentable. Más información, fermentis.com.
No ves el tres picos, parate en punta de pie.
Lúpulos Andinos, organizadores del Congreso de Lúpulo. Gorila, cervecería argentina. La evolución de la involución. Firestone Walker, segunda parte. Which are the next step to you in recipes? What happened now? What happened with Matt?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think, again, the reason why I went to Belgium and the reason why I feel like I've been successful to this point is I'm more of a student of history, and I truly believe that really we don't necessarily invent new things, we just reimagine the things that have already happened before us. So I keenly pay attention to historical beer styles, and I love to take and put a twist of my own on them. Very easy example would be Pivo Pilsner, where we took a very common type of beer and just made ever so slight tweaks to modernize it. So I think the future lies at our fingertips in terms of what is already there. And I think what I'm so excited about modern brewers is this notion of, innovation and reinvention. It seems like brewers are really fascinated with lager brewing again. I'm very excited about that. I think brewers, have been somewhat distracted by seltzers and non-alcoholics and all these others. However, you learn new techniques that then can be brought back to, like
the others.
Exactly. So I feel like it's all in a positive forward progression. I can't predict what the next great beer is going to be, but it's somewhere in between the lines of what we already know.
Tell me about the brew house.
So we're standing in actually between two brew houses. To our left is what was the original brew house up on the upper deck. And then down below, an extension of that brew house. That brew house is approximately a 100 hectoliter brew house. And it got us to the point of where Union Jack IPA was our best-selling beer. After that point, after about 2012, we needed more capacity, and we built a second brew house, which we're standing here, which is our larger 300 hectoliter brew house, which sounds massive, right? But it's still very much the same componentry of this smaller brew house. It allows us to add oats, it allows us to add a lot of hops and any other adjunct or anything else we want. And it also lets us do larger volumes of our best-selling beers. So we run two brew houses. I mean, you see some specialty grains there on the floor.
Yes.
But essentially, this is the kitchen of the brewery. We have something in and around 45 fermenting vessels, and they range in size from 100 barrels or around 100 hectoliters to as much as 1,500 barrels. So we have a range of size, again, for specialty beers or large production beers. We have 2 bottle lines, 1 canning line, and 1 keg racking line, so we can do all the different packages.
In June, you have a very, very special festival. Yeah. Please tell, because Antares, our friends, came.
Yeah, so we started about 10 years ago what we call the Firestone Walker Invitational Beer Festival. And the whole concept there was to bring brewers from outside of our region and share those beers with our local fan base and really use it as an educational platform, but also just a celebration of great beer around the world. And then they share their best beers, and it's a really wonderful event. And yes, Antares is going to be here, so Argentina will be represented.
Yeah. En el próximo programa, la tercera y última parte de esta increíble fábrica, Firestone Walker. Heller, bar de fábrica, la perfecta combinación entre todos nuestros estilos de cervezas artesanales junto a la mejor gastronomía. Heller, en Mar del Plata.
Cada lugar y cada momento tienen un estilo distinto. Cada espacio se transforma con un sonido. ¿Y vos? ¿Sos capitán de tu vida?
Surprise, motherfucker.
De lunes a lunes, toma la exquisita cerveza artesanal Antares en La Plata, 56, Diagonal y Parador. Choperas Cabo de Frío, la solución en fabricación e instalación de choperas.
Listen up, louder, louder, louder. Listen up, listen up.
Frío Beer. Chillers y torpedos, micro y macro cervecerías. Asesoramiento profesional, instalación, www.friobeer.com.ar. Ámsterdam, Friends Factory, La Plata, el lugar en tu mundo. Sudamericana de Filtrado, Sociedad Anónima. Alta calidad, máxima eficiencia y rendimiento. Más de 50 años en la industria del filtrado. Guten Bier, producimos nuestra cerveza. Podés encontrarla en nuestros bares de Lomas y Cañuelas. Guten Bier, grandes birras, grandes bares. Cervecería artesanal Coleman. Desde hace 8 años, elaborando un producto artesanal genuino. Coleman, construyendo cervezas. Llegó el momento de compartir la segunda parte de Testa Inox en Mendoza.
Cuando se encara un proyecto, generalmente se arranca con una idea que tiene el cliente, esa idea empieza a madurar, nosotros hacemos una primera cotización, después eso avanza a otra cotización un poquito más ajustada a lo que realmente el cliente necesita y después termina en una tercera o cuarta cotización, que es cuando ya definimos todo lo que el cliente necesita en cuanto a su espacio, a su forma de trabajar, las conexiones que utiliza, etcétera. Y una vez que tenemos eso, nosotros salimos al mercado a ver qué material conseguimos para poder de alguna forma concatenar lo que el cliente pidió con lo que consigo en el mercado. Y ahí empiezan los desarrollos de corte, qué tipo de chapa se usa, qué espesores vamos a usar, cómo los vamos a aprovechar, qué pulidos vamos a utilizar, si lo vamos a pulir nosotros, si vamos a comprar pulido. Y en base a eso se va desarrollando el producto, que generalmente su producción arranca meses después de que se vendió. Entonces hay un lapso de tiempo también en la que el cliente puede ver, en cuanto a planos, 3D y demás, qué es lo que se le va a entregar. Y bueno, empieza la producción, y cuando empieza la producción empezamos a soldar, a doblar, a curvar, a cilindrar, a mecanizar bridas, etcétera, y eso después pasa a la parte de ensamble, o sea que tenemos una primera etapa donde vamos a hacer autopartes y una segunda etapa donde tenemos el ensamble y llegamos al producto final, que es lo que pueden ver atrás.
De eso es lo que más me interesa, ¿no? Detrás hay amor, pasión, espíritu. Y sobre todo, bueno, ser maniables como puede llegar a ser el inoxidable en determinada temperatura. No pasa eso con una empresa a nivel industrial, a nivel, no sé, a escalas tremendas. Eso ya son máquinas que va derechito y no me cambies el menú. Acá la adaptación es un punto muy importante, ¿no? Porque eso significa ser personalizado. Y yo estoy viendo ahí a los chicos trabajando totalmente equipados con todo lo que necesitan, pero de una forma, bueno, pasional, artesanal y prolija. Eso me pone muy bien, Dieguito.
Sí, de eso se trata. De eso se trata. Mucha pasión, perseverancia y estar el día a día atrás de todo esto que requiere mucha mano de obra. Como bien decías vos, no hay nada automatizado, todo artesanal, y eso tiene un sabor especial.
Hay algunos procesos que vamos adquiriendo la tecnología como para empezar a automatizarlos, pero todos son semiautomáticos. Siempre está la presencia del operario. Si me comparo con muchos colegas que empezaron a construir sus fábricas y que están haciendo cerveza más o menos hace la misma cantidad de tiempo que nosotros estamos en el mercado, y nos ha pasado lo mismo. Ellos han ido cambiando sus cocciones, adquiriendo un poco más de tecnología, modificando su manera de gasificar, etcétera, de envasar. Se pasaron todos a la lata muy rápido con la pandemia y demás, y nosotros también tuvimos que comprar varios equipos para poder acompañar ese crecimiento y mejorar nuestra calidad, y fue muy parejo, digamos. Algunos clientes están un poco lejos, pero ya se demostró que podemos llegar, y podemos llegar con cierta calidad y calidad-precio a clientes que no están cerca de nuestras instalaciones. Así que eso no es un limitante. Y bueno, a ver, nosotros lo volvemos a repetir, nos adaptamos a la forma de trabajar del cliente. Y ese es nuestro objetivo, fabricar un equipo que sea para el cliente, a su forma de trabajar, con su gente, con su estilo de hacer la cerveza. Nosotros vamos a lograr siempre relacionarnos para lograr eso, para poder encajar y fabricar algo a medida.
Yo lo que quisiera es que esto cada vez crezca más, que donde están los ciruelos haya más maquinaria, porque se lo merecen, porque son luchadores, porque hacen las cosas bien. Así que ustedes del otro lado, mientras estuvimos charlando, seguramente estuvieron viendo todas las imágenes que nosotros estamos viendo. Así que nada, decirles gracias por acompañarnos, por continuar este camino hacia arriba y por mucho tiempo más juntos, ¿eh?
Listo, Grace, muchísimas gracias por venir y por hacernos el aguante acá en Mendoza, tan lejos.
Gracias.
Gracias, Grace. Gracias, Topi. Acá estaremos y vamos por más.